So this is a review for Tortoise Beats Hare, released in 1941. It's the 320th in the series, and it's directed by Tex Avery. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 2 DVD set, and on the Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 2 Blu-ray set, which is now back in print, by the way. Either one is great, but the Platinum Collection is in high definition. You even get the whole trilogy in there as well, but both sets are great. This short is under copyright. You will not find it on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it. So complaining about me not showing the cartoon, well, that's not the point of this video. But in case you haven't seen this one, there's really not that much of a story here. It's pretty much just a parody of the Aesop fable Tortoise Beats Hare, where we see that Bugs in the beginning is angry with the title and challenges Cecil Turtle to a race, but little does he know, Cecil has many relatives that will help him finish the race. I mean, I'm assuming they're relatives. I don't know, maybe they're friends or something. We don't know, and we'll never know. But who cares, right? Now, before I get into the review and trivia section of this video, years back when I was covering these shorts as audio commentaries, I had the audio commentary for this one where I had a few of my friends with me, and we did an extended video after that covered not just this short, but also the trilogy and just the comparisons between the three, because this is one of those unique situations where you got the same idea, but it's covered by three different directors. So you got this one by Avery, you've got one by Clampett, and one by Friz Freleng. Now, I had to take that video down. Long story short, it was a copyright thing, and I had to retool everything as reviews, hence why I'm covering this short again. But good news for you guys, once I do my usual review, I'm going to have an edited version at the end, and by edited, I mean I'll be changing the visuals over to make it comply with fair use a bit better than before, and you can hear some other opinions, because this one is one of those shorts where, because it was so early in the development of the Bugs Bunny character, they hadn't really settled on him quite yet. And so in this one, you might look at it and go, wow, he's more of a loser character in this one, and indeed he is. So Tex directs A Wild Hare, and that's pretty much the Bugs Bunny formula that we all know. I mean, that short is almost interchangeable with anything that would come later once his character is solidified. But the character proved to be so popular, in fact, even Avery was surprised at that. And so Chuck Jones made a Bugs Bunny short, but that was more utilizing the rabbit that he was developing, and I guess because Bugs was so popular, he might have been told to change his rabbit character into Bugs Bunny, and just so the theater owners can have something a little quicker there. I don't know, that's just speculation, but the timeline certainly fits if that was the case. Now, Tex is not really known for consistency when it comes to characters. He just did whatever he thought was funny. So when Tex did this short, he needed a rabbit character. He needed one that would be frustrated at what Cecil was doing all throughout the short. So my theory on this is that because Avery had for the longest time, he would make different shorts around fairy tales and fables. It's certainly nothing new. I mean, look at A Bear's Tale, for example. That was fairly recent, and it's a wonderful short, by the way, if you haven't seen it. My own theory on this, I can't prove it either way, but again, the timeline fits. Tex makes A Wild Hare, thinking nothing of whether it's going to become really popular or not. He just thought it was a funny idea. He went ahead, he did it. It proved to be so popular. Theater owners want more of the rabbit. So Jones does his short where he has his own Bugs Bunny character. And here it's possible that Avery was going to do a Tortoise and the Hare parody. But then, because he was asked to make another Bugs Bunny short, it's quite possible they just then put Bugs in and off you go. Because if you look at the other Bugs Bunny shorts that Tex Avery did before he was fired and went to MGM, they were more in line to the character of A Wild Hare. So my guess, and I've got no evidence or anything here, this is just speculation, but it truly seems like Avery was developing another parody of a fable. He just happened to have a rabbit, and so he put Bugs Bunny in it. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe he was told to make a Bugs Bunny one, then just quickly thought of doing this fable. Anyway, it's all the information that's lost to time. And really, once again, Avery never really thought too deep about character. It's just whatever was funny, and this short would end up being the basis, more or less, of what he would end up doing with the Droopy character. See, here, the whole premise is that Cecil has all these, I'm going to say relatives. Again, we don't know if it's truly relatives or friends, but he gets his relatives to show up at different points of the race to frustrate Bugs and end up, quote-unquote, winning the race. He then takes it one step further when he goes to MGM and develops the Droopy character, but instead of there being a logical explanation as to why Droopy shows up, Avery just foregoes that completely. He just has Droopy showing up and frustrating the wolf to no end. I would argue it's probably more funnier. Maybe this short, some have argued, and you'll hear it with my friends later on in that recording I mentioned earlier, could this short have worked that little bit better if they didn't show why Cecil kept on going in front, like if he was a Droopy character? and then have the punchline at the end where there's so many turtles and they say, it's a possibility. So food for thought. Maybe one day I'll just do a little edit to remove the whole scene as to how it all occurred and just see how it plays out. I think that would be an interesting experiment. Does that mean what Avery did here was bad? Of course not. It's just food for thought, I guess. And speaking of the whole, it's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
If you hear that, or if you ever hear, could be, that comes from the radio. The actor's name is Artie Orbach, if I said it correctly. Apologies if I butchered that. And he had a radio character named Kitzel, and that would be one of his trademark sayings, and you hear that all over Looney Tunes around this time. Remember, when this came out, radio was still king, and anyone in the audience would have immediately recognized where that catchphrase came from. And the irony is, a lot of people, when they hear that, they think that it was termite terrors that came up with it. Well, hate to burst your bubble, guys. No, it came from the radio first. So it's kind of weird how things like that happen. So a few other little references before we go through the short itself. Plus, I want to discuss a little bit about the music too. So you hear the line,
Hey, Biscuit.
For those who aren't aware, Biscuit was a racehorse at the time, won many races, and it's been a subject of many films as well, including one with Shirley Temple, I believe, as well. And there was even a movie in the early 2000s. So for the few that don't know, very popular racehorse of the time. And of course, it makes a whole lot of sense with how Bugs calls Cecil Biscuit. Bugs' voice is rather different here, but again, voice acting wise, Mel Blanc would have still been trying to work things out.
I can't figure that out back there. I'm going along at a good clip. Didn't see him pass me. Then bingo. Just like that. And there he was in front of me.
And sometimes it's dependent on the director as well, because even later on, when you just had the three units, McKimson, Freeling, and Jones, Bugs would sound slightly different from all three, so it's all dependent on how he's directed. No matter how good you are as a voice actor, your performance is also based on how well you are directed. And we see later on the telephone booth, and that's a play on the US phone company Ma Bell. But of course, it's a turtle phone, so I guess they got their own little network somehow. But I'm going to talk briefly about the music here. My good friend Manny Cruz, the Tooney Tenor, he was going to show up on this, but schedules didn't allow that. Now, normally I don't sing the Manny's Music Time theme, and today will be no different. So we'll get right into just a few bits of music. Wait a second. I hear someone huffing and puffing. Oh, he just made it from the looks of things.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. This is... man, I'm out of breath. Look, I've done Spartan races before, but man, do I hate running. Now I'm hiccuping. Hi, everyone. This is Emmanuel Manny Cruz. The Tooney Tenor. Coming at you with the latest edition of... Thank goodness I have a recording of this one now, because, man, am I out of breath for singing. Woo! It's time for Manny's Music Time with music trivia for you today. Bum! Now I could talk about the cartoon. So this is Manny's Music Time for the 1941 Merry Melody cartoon Tortoise Beats Hare by Fred Avery and musical direction by Carl W. Stalin. So yes, here is the first of the three Bugs Bunny vs. Cecil Turtle cartoons. I unfortunately didn't get the chance to talk about either Tortoise Wins by a Hare or Rabbit Transit, but I figured I'd hop on and talk a little bit about the first of these three awesome cartoons and one of the great trilogies in Warner Brothers history. I mean, of course, we have probably the most famous, the Hunters trilogy with Bugs, Daphne, and Elmer Fudd. You have the Things Come to Life trilogy. I'm thinking of the stuff that Frank Tashlin did with those three cartoons and in the 30s. And there's some other ones that I just can't think of right now. So since I'm late, I don't want to take up too much of your time or Anthony's time because he's going to, smack me around. So here we go. So obviously the cartoon starts off with Merrily We Roll Along, the Merry Melodies theme song, and beautifully it goes right into All Around the Mulberry Bush, a traditional folk song. And you hear that during the opening credits when Bugs is very beautifully reading all the names wrong in the credits. Fred, Avery, Dave Monahan, Charles Mackinson instead of McKimson. And of course, Fred Avery, Tex Avery, the director. And then while you hear Around the Mulberry Bush, it then transitions into 10 Little Indians, another traditional kids song, which doesn't have the most politically correct of histories. I'm not going to talk about that today because I want to keep this Manny's Music Time short. But, the melody is pretty familiar. So on and so forth.
What's this? Animation, Charles Mackinson.
And then for the rest of this cartoon, it's pretty much original music with the exception of one piece of music by the great Romantic era composer Felix Mendelssohn. So after Cecil gets in contact with his cousins and they pretty much start calling each other, as Cecil brilliantly tells them, give him the works. And, Cecil's cousins start calling each other, hello, hello, hello. You hear a piece of music called the Overture to Italia.
Give him the works. Hello. Hello.
So an overture is like the beginning of a show. It's a piece of music, instrumental piece of music that's like the setup to an opera, to a play, to a musical theater piece. They used to have overtures in early films, imitating the theater experience. Now, this information from Italia, I had to find it in German originally. So Italia is incidental music that was written by Felix Mendelssohn around 1843 to 1845. And it was written for a play called Italia, which was written by a French playwright, Jean Racine. Now, this music, for some reason, I assumed that it was an original piece from Stalling, but then when I rewatched that clip, I was like, nah, this definitely sounds like a piece of quote-unquote classical music, although classical technically refers to the music that came before Mendelssohn. Classical music from the 1700s, that's like the time of Haydn and Mozart and all that. Mendelssohn, his music is from the 1800s, and how appropriate, I mentioned Mendelssohn because he wrote the music that you hear at a wedding. So probably his most famous piece of music is that. One of the reasons why I'm so late with this commentary, because I went to a wedding, one of my good friends from graduate school. So if you're listening, hi Christine, congratulations on your wedding. She's a huge Disney fan, so maybe one day hopefully we can get her to talk on Anthony's channel about some Disney shorts, because she loves music and she's a great singer and she's also a huge Disney fanatic, so it'd be great to have her on. So as I was saying before, most of this cartoon is just nothing but original music from Stalling. I mean, brilliant stuff. But I really have to talk about one particular piece of original music from Carl Stalling. A piece of music that never, ever fails to make me laugh. And it's right when Bugs and Cecil are at the starting line. And when Cecil starts winding up the run, it's the running music you hear for Cecil. Bum, 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 bum. I mean, Anthony's probably going to splice in a little clip of that scene running, but that music, every time I hear it from Cecil, it never, ever fails to make me laugh. It is one of the best Stalling originals that he's ever written. I mean, maybe one day I can find a proper name for it. It's probably literally going to say Cecil Runs in the Warner Brothers, song cue archives, which is, that scene alone is one of my absolute favorite, musical bits in any Warner Brothers cartoon, just Cecil's running music. So, I had to come on just for that. Now, that's pretty much it for Manny's Music Time. And as for the trilogy itself, I mean, Rabbit Transit is a really, really good cartoon. Fritz Freeling, his great work in the 40s, but that's definitely the weakest of the three. It's still a great cartoon, though. Can't go wrong with it. But when it comes to my favorite of this trilogy, it's like there's things about Tortoise Beats Hare that I really love, and just how over the top it is. Such a funny cartoon. It is, obviously showing the great stuff that Bob Clampett was doing in the mid-40s, and some beautiful, absolutely gorgeous animation by Rob Scribner and Bob McKimson in it. Especially the scene where Bugs is, how does that moron do it? And he switches beautifully between Rod Scribner's animation to Bob McKimson's. I have to say it's a neck and neck, but I probably would have to rank Tortoise wins by a hair 1, Tortoise Beats Hare a close second, and Rabbit Transit number 3. I mean, they're all solid cartoons. Cecil Turtle is a hilarious character, again, hilariously voiced with a really dopey voice. Hello, Mr. Rabbit. You know, Mel Blanc doing that really low, slow voice that fits Cecil pretty well. I'm doing a terrible job of Cecil Turtle right now, so feel free to write in the comments. But yeah, just had to hop on and run. I mean, I am a pretty slow runner. I'm definitely out of shape, and I'm working on it right now. So I'm kind of more like Cecil, but hopefully very soon I'll be running. Maybe not as fast as Bugs, but I'll get there, you know. So thanks for having me on. This was Manny's Music Time. I hope you like the brand new theme music that I composed myself. If you've been listening for a while, I've always sung the Manny's Music Time jingle a cappella. About a few days ago, I finally sat down, played around with GarageBand, and I wrote a proper backing track. So let me know what you think. And thanks for following Anthony's channel. Love always coming on, recording for him. And thanks for supporting me. And, you know, you feel free to follow me on social media at the Tooney Tenor, TheTooneyTenor, for my updates as my life as a musician, as well as a multifaceted enthusiast of all things, not just Ninja Turtles, but got to shout out our boy, Cecil Turtle himself, and my love of Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. So thanks for listening. And I don't know, if you owe somebody $10, then go pay them up right now. And I hope you choke. No, don't say that. But I love Bugs' delivery of that line. So thanks for listening, folks. And that's all, folks. Goodbye, Mr. Rabbit.
Hope you choke.
See, I wouldn't know what my favorite Carl Starling score is, but if we're talking cues, the Cecil Turtle cue just might be one of my favorites. And while the animation certainly emphasizes how slow Cecil really is, the music really helps emphasize that, and it's incredible. But let's go through this short from start to finish and have a look and see why this one might be considered a classic by some, but then some may not like it as much, so we're going to certainly go through it all. Now, opening up, probably the most famous part of this short is the very title screen. Even those who aren't a fan of this short all agree that this is such an inspired opening. So this is Avery trying completely different things when it comes to title cards, and he was pretty much the only person that did that. I know there is an example for one Popeye short, but there's also Avery doing it over at MGM. In fact, Avery was pretty much the only one that did this. And that's not to say other directors didn't have interactive elements in their opening titles. I know a few Roadrunner shorts, for example, Chuck Jones would have that. But here you've got Bugs, he's just strolling along, big star at this point, got that smug attitude, and he's reading all the names incorrectly, especially Fred Avery. But after all that, he reads the title, and then he is outraged. He is pissed. But I like how during all of that, he even pauses to let the audience know, I ought to know, I work for them.
Tortoise Beats Hare? Tortoise Beats Hare? What? These screwy guys don't know what they're talking about. What, the big bunch of joints? Now you ought to know. I work for them.
But remember, this was shown in the theater. Can you just imagine being in the audience at the time when this first came out? You've got the giant screen, you've seen the title card, you're thinking, okay, this is what the short's going to be. But then you see this giant rabbit just walking on and then acting all angry and then ripping the title card. That's not to say that the effect isn't any good when you're watching it at home, but you can imagine the effect will be even grander when seeing it on the big screen. But Bugs, he's pissed. He's going to look for Cecil Turtle. Why specifically Cecil? I don't know. Maybe they had a race before. Maybe they knew each other from before. Who knows? Who cares? He's looking specifically for Cecil Turtle. In his first appearance of 3 during the Golden Age, he would have appearances in future projects later on, such as the recent Looney Tunes cartoons. So Bugs is opening doors, trying to find where Cecil is. He sees his letterbox, goes in, and knocks on the door, demanding to see him in some beautiful animation here. I wonder if that's Virgil Ross. To quote Artie Orbach, it's a possibility. Let me know in the comments if that's correct or if you feel it's somebody else. But again, with Avery playing up on the whole Fables / fairy tales thing, during all of this, Bugs says he's going to huff and puff and blow the house down, but then realizes his mistake and acts all sheepish.
Come out of there, or I'll huff.
And I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
Oh, sorry, pardon me. Wrong story. Come on out of there, Superman!
But the door opens, and I believe he cuts to another animator here. Could be Rod Scribner, I'm not sure. It seems like it, though. If it is Scribner, he definitely gets more and more extreme as the years go along, once he ends up being directed by Bob Clampett. So Bugs challenges the turtle to a race, and there's a $10 wager. And just an FYI, in case you were curious, $10 in 1941, okay, this would have been animated in 1940, but whatever. But $10 in 1941 in today's dollars would be roughly $33. So still an amusingly low wager. Maybe these two were friends and then Bugs is just pissed off at him over the title or something, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what I will do, stupid. I'll bet you $10 I can beat you.
You got a bet there, mister.
We end up dissolving to the race itself. Now, if you're familiar with the short The Tortoise and the Hare from Disney in 1935, a lot of this might seem familiar to you. So Avery may well have parodied the fable, but here it also appears that he's parodying that Disney short. He had no hate for Disney or anything. He's parodied what they did for so many years, but it was always a respectful parody. And so in this short, Bugs really does also remind me of the Max Hare character that was in the Disney one. Some have even argued that Max Hare might have been inspiration for Bugs. I don't buy it, but take that what you will. At least they're similar in character in this short in any case. They're both big-headed, they know they're going to win, and that's pretty much the point of the whole fable, isn't it? So we don't even hear go for this race. It's just on your marks, get set, and it's off to the races. And I love a lot of the running animation in this short. In fact, a lot of it is we don't even see the legs. We just see this whirling, we just see brush animation, and it's done really well. And Avery over the years, even though he's the one that brought speed, so to speak, into the Looney Tunes, even he was kind of slower in his earlier career compared to now. So over the years, his cartoons will just get more and more speedier and more funnier, and case in point, this short definitely shows that off. So Cecil ends up starting off and he stops, and you wonder what he's going to do. Now, we all know what the outcome of this short is, but the audiences at the time who hadn't seen this before would have likely really gotten a kick out of this when we see the Bell Turtle Phone Company, and he enters in. Beautiful dad joke with the local and long distance, ha ha. Different phones there, but we see that Cecil ends up calling up Chester. So again, is it a friend or relative? Who knows, and who cares? So Avery's already done this, where you have the split screen and one of the characters ends up going into the other person's frame. Nothing new here, but still pretty funny, and he doesn't overdo it. So we see the montage. You've seen a lot of water features around this time. You would see a lot of these sort of montage sequences, and I love the different turtles. And Avery was just able to make all these turtles have different personalities, so to speak, ever so slightly, through the fact that they're wearing different hats and some are fishing and so on. But my favorite bit, and this is kind of unintentional, so you've got the turtle getting out of a bath, which it's funny, he's wearing a towel around himself like that, and he ends up putting a shell on, but he drops the towel anyway, and you can see his naked bottom half. I don't know if that's intentional or not, like a little jab at censorship around that time, but whether it was intentional or not, I thought that was pretty funny, just a little detail. But the plan is now in action. So we see Bugs all carefree, skating along, beautiful animation again, and we now see one of the other turtles.
Hiya, Speedy.
We'll just refer all the turtles as Cecil because why not? That's probably going to make it easy for this review. And Bugs is just absolutely dumbfounded. And again, wonderful speed animation when he has to go back to confirm that he wasn't just seeing things that, no, this is Cecil, quote unquote. And Bugs is completely dumbfounded. He can't even find the right words.
Well, I just left you back. Well, how in a what? Gee, how did you get up here anyway?
Normally, again, if you see later entries, Bugs is always calm, cool, collected. Here, he's clearly not. He just doesn't understand what's going on, and he ends up getting angry. But Cecil's response of, just running.
Oh, just running.
Beautiful. Love that response. And let's face it, Bugs even has to resort to cheating here, because what else did he do? So he grabs the shell and just throws it away, making Cecil go for his shell. In fact, he's so upset that he even addresses the audience, but of course the audience is in on it, which will make this fourth wall breaking even funnier. But the timing and the layout of this is impeccable. So Bugs stops, addresses the audience, as I mentioned, and it pans over and we see Cecil again.
I can't figure that out back there. I'm going along at a good clip. Didn't see him pass me. Then bingo. Just like that. And there he was in front of me.
Hello.
I tell you, it just don't make sense.
And the timing of that, beautiful. and Avery would only get better and better as he goes over to MGM. Bugs ends up doing a double take, and we even get a reversal of the kiss that was done in the Wild Hare. But remember, kisses Alma here, but now the tables are turned on him, which makes him even angrier. And in another bit of layout, Bugs waves "So long, Cecil," but we pan over to the other side of the bridge, and we see Cecil there again. So Bugs races past this Cecil, and we get something that Avery would end up doing even more over at MGM, where the character breaks the fourth wall and says, "We do this kind of stuff to him all through the picture."
We do this kind of stuff to him all through the picture.
So yes, Avery starts doing more and more of that, and yeah, you'll see more of that over at MGM. But in this race, this is probably my favorite bit, where you got Bugs. He just builds this blockade somehow. I guess he's that far ahead, completely satisfied with the blockade, but we all know what's going to happen.
That ought to slow the little screwball down some.
Yup, that's a tough one.
You said it, brother.
And that's the thing, even though you know what's going to happen, it's the execution that's done so well here, especially with the layout, where we then see Cecil, quote unquote again, congratulating him for the wonderful blockade. Bugs is dumbfounded again and has to resort to cheating again, essentially, just racing across the bridge, and ends up cutting the bridge, climbing up a tree just to see where Cecil is. But we all know, again, in a beautiful bit of layout, we pan up and Cecil's there once again, giving yet another kiss. Now, we all know that Avery is all about extremes and playing with timing, so we get a wonderful scene where an angry Bugs Bunny just revs up in speed, getting faster and faster, being both angry and desperate to make sure that he's going to win this race, and he ends up crossing the finish line. Again, you all know what's going to happen. Even if you haven't seen this before, you know that Cecil's going to be there. But once again, it's all about the execution. So Mel Blanc, once again, even though this is not quite the Bugs Bunny voice that he'll end up settling into, the acting here is incredible, where he finally says, "I did it, I did it." We then hear Cecil,
Hey, Speedy. What kept you?
beautiful. Bugs is all frustrated again, and he just doesn't get it. How on earth did he beat him despite all that was done? But we also have some beautiful animation where Bugs, despite not knowing what's going on, ends up pulling out of his magical pocket that always shows up when needed, that he has $10 in there. That's a beautiful one, a freeze frame, by the way. Gives him the $10, and naturally Bugs is a sore loser and even does that wonderful face to him. He walks away, still trying to figure out how on earth it was done, even breaking the fourth wall. Hey, I wonder if I've been tricked? And we get the catchphrase, "It's a possibility," which I've already explained before. And it looks like each turtle gets $1. I believe there's 10 turtles, even though I only count 9, but anyway, maybe Cecil gets a bonus or something if there's only 9. But in any case, we end right there. So next up now is the original recording that I did with my friends on that original commentary track, which is pared down to better fit fair use. Now, in this discussion, we not only discuss this short, but we also discuss a few other things. So we do have brief discussions on the 2 sequels, so Tortoise Wins by a Hair and Rabbit Transit. I have already done those as reviews, and they're both on the channel. I may revisit Rabbit Transit again one day because I feel like I'm doing reviews better than I did then, but anyway, that's another thing entirely. We also discussed some of the model sheets, because one of the things I haven't mentioned yet is the way Bugs looks here, because again, they're still trying to figure things out, and my good friend Blue Genocide, he comes up with a few points in relation to that. So on the initial track, you have my good friends Eli Copperman, Blue Genocide, Steph Stilly, and Fox in a Fix, and there's even a recording with my good friend Austin Kelly, so there's quite a few people on this one, though Austin Kelly comes much later, and he points out a few things in relation to the short. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it, and I'll be back to conclude this after the recording. So we've got Steph Silly, Eli Copperman, Blue Genocide, and Fox in a Fix. Say hi, guys.
Hi, folks. Hello. The only problem with this cartoon is that the intro is so good that it all goes downhill from there a little bit.
Exactly.
This is a milestone in a way. It's the first of 3 Cecil Turtle cartoons. It's also the second Tex Avery Bugs Bunny short after Wild Hare, and there's plenty of interesting things to say about how Tex handled the character this time around. It's also a bit of a parody of the 1934 Sillish Company, The Tortoise and the Hare.
This one's a classic.
My opinion is that it's a good cartoon, but my main issue with it is that it's kind of just a one joke cartoon. And again, you'll see it as it goes on. And I know a lot of Tex fans are going to hate me for this, but this is my least favorite in the Bugs and Cecil Turtle trilogy.
I feel like that's kind of a fair opinion to have. The Bob Clampett one, as well as Friz Freeling, I always felt was stronger than this one.
Tex Avery made a cartoon later on called Dumbhounded, right, with Droopy, who keeps popping up everywhere. But at least in this cartoon, there's a reason for Cecil popping up, and that's because all his relatives are there.
See, that's what kind of ruins it for me, because we already know what happened. Whereas in Northwest Hounded Police, when we see all those other Droopies, you had no idea that they were there, which makes it even funnier, you know?
The only problem with this short is that it takes so long to set up the story halfway over, and the plot of the cartoon is begun.
And Chuck Jones mentioned when he's talking about Tex Avery, and he does make a point that when Tex Avery does his cartoons, all of them start off slow and then they just pick up in the pace. Like none of them seem to start off quick. And I'm just trying to think whether there are any Tex cartoons where they started off really, really quick. So we'll leave it up to the viewers. You know, if you can think of a Tex Avery cartoon that doesn't start off slow, that it actually starts off like the really fast pace, definitely put them in the comments below. But you know, this cartoon, look, I think it's funny. I think it's pretty solid. But I do have to side with you guys. My favorite one is the Clampett one. But for what this is, it's pretty good. But it also illustrates that even Tex didn't really get why Wild Hare works so well. Because in this one, Bugs is pretty much a loser, whereas in Wild Hare is a winner.
I also want to quickly add that Tex Avery himself in later interviews would say that he basically felt that it was a miracle he didn't get sued by Disney over the rabbit's design being really close to Mac's hair, which was from the Tortoise Beats Hare short that Disney did.
This is one of the first Bugs Bunny cartoons, and the writers have a lot of freedom how to interpret his character. So him being the antagonist / loser is really interesting. I don't think they stray away from his character completely, because he didn't lose later on, but sometimes took a hit. But here he's completely embarrassed by the turtle, who is a great character. I think this is one of Tex's better cartoons and arguably his best box cartoon. And it's pretty interesting that all three of the tortoise cartoons are made by 3 different directors. You see like 3 different approaches on it. I think that's very, very cool. So this is the start of something cool. Definitely.
You got 3 different directors, 3 different takes of Tortoise versus the Hare, you know, and it's a shame we'll never see like a Chuck Jones version or something, but I'm happy with what we got.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. So taking a look at the other 2, the second one.
But it's Winged by a Hare, directed by the greatest Looney Tunes director of all time, Bob Clampett.
Yay.
The second one has a little bit of repeated animation from this one to recap what happened in the last episode.
There's no real continuity between them, and yet there kind of is. It's really, really weird. It's not like in some comic books where they might have a continuing story or something.
I think it's better, but it's not my favorite of the trilogy. We'll get into that a little later. There's only a handful of cartoons where Bugs Bunny is a loser, and although Tex and Friz definitely played that up, you could definitely argue that Bob Clampett really played it up, because Bugs cannot fathom the idea of losing, and he is just pissed. Especially as shown during that great Rod Scribner tirade. You know, the Doyle always wins. How does he do it? And all that. The turtle is a lot smarter than the Bugs gave him credit for, to the point where he just snapped at the end. It's like, I'm the rabbit, you dolts. It's absolutely genius. And the sheer fact that this was something that a lot of interpretations of Bugs later on just didn't really understand, especially in a cartoon I otherwise enjoy, but Rabbit Rampage. Although Bugs is like mad in the short, he's more so just grumpy for no other reason other than, oh, this is just the cartoonist. But like seeing Bugs in like these shorts just feels more relatable.
I haven't seen Rabbit Transit, the last one, in a really long time. I think Tortoise Wins by a Hare is probably the funniest one. I actually like seeing Bugs as the loser for once. I think it's just really hilarious to see him so pissed off and out of control of the situation. It's a good cartoon. I'm glad they didn't do this dynamic all the time, but every once in a while it's funny. It humanizes the character.
It was always my least favorite. I didn't care for it, but when I rewatched it recently, I thought it was a lot better than what people may perhaps give credit for, and I think it's Your favorite blue, isn't it?
Rabbit Transit? Yeah, it definitely is. The reason for that is simply because I guess I'm not as big of a fan of the Bugs' unusual character arc throughout the first two. I'm not saying that I do not like this cartoon or its follow-up, Tortoise Wins by a Hair. It's just that I really like how back and forth it is in between in Rabbit Transit. There's parts where Tortoise is ahead, and it just goes back and forth, and I really like that because Cecil is definitely the smartest enemy that Bugs ever had to deal with, and I think that there was something to go off of with the Freeling interpretation, but they never did anything with it.
You're right, Blue. They never really did anything with it after that, because honestly, I think Frizz understood Bugs more as a loser than Chuck did. Chuck tried so hard in later years to make Bugs a lot more suave and more gentlemanlike, but Frizz just embraced Bugs' New York personality a lot. And you'll even see in cartoons like that one where Bugs' attempt at hypnotizing Elmer goes wrong, and he gets mad when Elmer thinks he's a rabbit. So that's all a lot funnier. I think Frizz and Clampett, and also Tex to some extent, really understood Bugs' character a lot more thoroughly than, say, Chuck or McKimson.
I remember Bugs being kind of grumpy in What's Cooking Doc. That worked really well. For me, the third one, I think, is also a good one because I keep forgetting what happens in that one. So it's always a surprise when I watch it.
I really do like the third one because it's such a battle of wits between the two of them.
Now, at the time of the original recording all those years back, our good friend Austin Kelly was supposed to join us, but he couldn't. So he sent me a recording after the fact, and well, here it is.
Hi, I'm Austin Kelly. By the time Tortoise Beats Hare, this 1941 Bugs Bunny cartoon, had come out, Bugs had only starred in a handful of cartoons, and the directors that were working with him were still trying to find out who he was. Even after Bugs' character was set in stone and people knew who he was supposed to be and how he was supposed to act, the Warner guys liked to twist around the typical Bugs formula and put him up against different enemies, sometimes that weren't just Elmer Fudd or, in later cases, Yosemite Sam. And in some cases, they actually like to make Bugs the victim. Probably the most notable of these twists on the Bugs formula was this Tortoise Beats Hare trilogy that was started by Tex Avery with this wonderful cartoon in 1941. Now, I think Tex Avery made Bugs the victim for this specific cartoon, not because he didn't know who Bugs was yet, but because he just wanted to do whatever he wanted with the character. Although Chuck Jones thinks otherwise. Here's Chuck on Bugs in his early days. Quote, "If you look at the wild hare and you look at the next one, like the tortoise and the hare thing, you'll notice that Bugs is the victim. The turtle steals all of Bugs' characteristics and Bugs becomes the victim. He becomes the Elmer Fudd. So it took 2 or 3 pictures for anybody to realize what they were working with." I have to say, though, I don't agree with Chuck's assessment of the character and how Tex handled him. I think Tex knew perfectly well how the cartoons would go and the dynamic that Bugs and Elmer had. He just wanted to have fun with the character, screw around with it, see what it could do, see what it was capable of. And that's what he's doing here with putting Bugs in as the Elmer Fudd, as Chuck puts it. But regardless of what you think about Tex's understanding of the Bugs Bunny character, Tortoise Beats Hare is a wonderful cartoon that gives us a refreshing new taste from the now set in stone as the typical Bugs Bunny cartoon formula with Elmer Fudd or Yosemite Sam in it. Now, as for animation identifications, which are very hard to come by for these early Tex Avery cartoons, because not much documentation survives to confirm what a scene animated by, say, Sid Sutherland or Rev Chaney would look like, I can only identify a few scenes in this cartoon for certain, 2 of which are the work of Virgil Ross. Bugs putting all the wood on the pile to stop Cecil from coming by, and Bugs acting like the big bad wolf as he threatens to blow Cecil's house down. Although I can't identify the Rod Scribner scenes with certainty because who can? It's Rod Scribner, let's be real here. He does Bugs giving Cecil his $10, and also Bugs literally pulling the shell off of Cecil.
I do have a little fun thing I want to talk about. Do you guys think that the Bugs in this cartoon looks different than a wild hare in any way?
Yeah.
All right. So here's a little funny thing I was learning in a documentary that I was watching a couple days ago. Anthony, I'll make you have to do a little bit more work. This video brought up the fact that originally a man named Robert Givens, I'm sure we all know that name, He did the original model sheet for A Wild Hare, but Tex ended up not using it because he and McKimson actually did their own model sheet that was used as the basis for the Wild Hare rabbit. But according to this documentary, the Robert Gibbons model sheet that was done first was actually used for this cartoon.
I thought it was used for Elmer's Pet Rabbit, actually.
Well, I'm only saying that because looking at what is apparently the Gibbons model sheet, it does look pretty close to this one.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense.
Now, I had to really rush to make sure I got that information correct, so something could be wrong there, but I did remember that as a key point of that documentary.
Yeah, because there were a few different model sheets before they finally settled the famous McKimson one. I think it was in 44 or something?
43, Tortoise, not Tortoise. I was going to say Tortoise.
Bugs Tortoise,
Bugs Bunny gets the Boyd.
I love that cartoon.
It's a great first one that uses the 1943 McKimson model. Anthony, do you mind if we quickly talk about Bugs Bunny model sheets real quick? Because I do think this is interesting. So either way, if it was Elmer's Pet Rabbit or this cartoon, I'm pretty sure it's this one because the model sheet I'm seeing here has teeth. I mean, that would be a giveaway if it was Elmer's Pet Rabbit. But either way, so we had all these different weird looking rabbits for the first couple years, especially from Hiawatha's Hare Hunt. I've watched that one. Bugs looks really funny in a couple shots in that cartoon. And we got the famous model from 1943, which was used first in Bugs Bunny Gets the Boyd. That became like the one that looked the most like Bugs. Like that was the one that you'd see as Bugs for the longest time until it was refined further in 1948, I think. But the interesting thing is that McKimson was responsible for the unified rabbit design. But he ended up just completely getting rid of it for that fatter.
Even in The Simpsons, if you look at in the early seasons, like season 1, 2, 3, upwards, all gets changed. And I think Bugs is no different. And even later on, when you had the 3 units in the 50s, McKimson, Jones, and Freeling, I mean, even there, the Bugs was drawn kind of differently between the 3 units.
Here's my question for you all. What is your favorite design for Bugs? Because there's obviously just a little bit of variation between him at this point.
I actually kind of like the later Friz Freeling design of Bugs. It looks kind of cute. I know a lot of people say, like, well, but what about the Buck Quibbin design? That's good. But the Friz Freeling one always appealed to me more. I think Chuck's design of Bugs all this time got a little too cute for it was good. But Friz always knew, and I guess Holly Pratt as well, just always knew how to keep Bugs' more adorable features at like a more restricted capacity than, say, Chuck's.
Also, I like the models of the early McKimson cartoons, like when he's a little fat and a little fluffy.
I love that, yeah. He's chubby boy.
Yeah, I think the 43 McKimson model is like the perfect Bugs Bunny design. But I like the 60s, like Chuck Jones design, only because his drawing style is really appealing to me. I know it's not the most popular one, but I like his character designs.
I really do also like the 43 McKimson look, Steph. I really like these early rabbits, these like skinnier, I guess lankier is the word for it, more design of the rabbit.
Are you fat shaming?
No, because I'm a fat guy myself.
Bob Gibbons may be gone, but the fact that we all brought him up blue is really sweet. And, honestly, nothing in the world makes me happier to know that Bob Gibbons is not forgotten.
His daughter, you'll see a lot, especially on Cartoon Research and other places, like she really promotes what he did. I think it's really great.
She does. It's so awesome.
Okay, so that was the edited recording. I hope you all enjoy. And when I say edited, aside from the visuals, I did pare down some of the chatter that was going on that wasn't really related. I wanted to make this a bit more fine-tuned so it gets the point across better. So after all that, is this one my favorite of the trilogy? No. Do I still enjoy it? Heck yeah. Though I can understand why some people may not like this one as much. This one gets 9 out of 10. It's still a great Tex Avery directed effort, and even if Bugs didn't exist before or after this, it would still be considered a wonderful one-shot short. So there's that. But that'll do for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
I can't understand it. Hey, I wonder if I've been tricked.
It's a possibility.